Yo, what's up everybody? This is Mosen here coming at you with a new MTA for March 15th of 2019. And in the topics today, the Dagger Fury Warrior and secret new potions and gold saving tips that are always appreciated, I felt like. So we're gonna get into these. Yes, so we're gonna start right off. And I say secret, but it's you guys wanted more secret stuff in vanilla, okay? So here's a small one for you. It's not a huge one, okay? So don't expect too much. I know a lot of people always go, I already knew this, man, I already knew this. But it's not a huge one, it's not a huge one. But I'd say it will help a couple of people, okay? And you can save a little bit of money with this. So today I want to talk about the Troll's Blood potions, okay, and how you can save some money on consumables. I will give you more in the next MTA. So we got a new really cool one for casters as well. But I want to start out with the Mighty Troll's Blood potion. And you probably know, and what you probably did when you are raiding in AQ40 or something more, sometimes, or if you're a tank or a warrior, whatever, you are using the major Troll's Blood potions. At least that's what I did when we were raiding harder content. And the idea behind that was that you have, well, obviously, you know, health regen running, so you take pressure off the healers, and the raid damage doesn't hit as hard. And that's the whole idea behind that. Now, the thing is, with these, they're really freaking expensive. If you can see this here, the plague needs 2 Plague Bloom and a Grom's Blood, which in itself is, you know, just very, very expensive. And I was looking for something to that I could spam a little bit more. You know, what's always good is to have consumables that don't make you freaking poor all the time, that you can actually spam and that still have a good effect, right? So what we're looking at here is something called the 80-20 rule. Most of you probably have heard of that. I'm not gonna explain that in detail. So, but what it basically means, with 20% investment, you can already get 80% of the outcome or result that you're aiming for. And to achieve the other last 20% result, you would have to spend 80% more investment or effort. And this is basically what this is. The major Troll's Blood potion is the extra 20%. For a lot more investment, you get a little bit more effort result. And what we want to look at today is the Mighty Troll's Blood potion, in which you can already get the 80% effect out of very, very cheap investment. And this one is actually interesting because not many people have the recipe, although it's not a very crazy potion. It's not very rare either, but you have certain ways of getting it, okay? So the first idea, or the first option you have, is basically to get the drop on the recipe. Okay, so right now on the line side, there's no recipe for this potion out there. Okay, so why that is, I don't know. On Horde side, there's more of them. So here on the Alliance side, this recipe, or the potions themselves are actually more expensive. And you can make a profit out of these cheap, very cheap mats even. I'm going to talk about that in a second. So right now, there's no dropped recipes in here. And the way that you obtain this recipe, I found particularly interesting, is you will have to venture into Razorfen Downs and find a guy called Henry Stern, I believe. And here's the footage for you guys, how to get there. And all you really have to do is get to the area with the cages. When you enter the dungeon, you just stick to the left side until you finally reach an area with cages, and you'll find Henry Stern in there, and he'll teach you 2 things. First, the Gold Thorn Tea, which is more of an RP item than anything else. All it does is regenerate a lot of, you know, it's basically a drink that restores mana, and it will also, he will also teach you the Mighty Troll's Blood potion recipe if you don't want to spend any money. Usually, on Horde side, the recipe goes for a gold 50, so if you can't be asked, then you can just buy the recipe. On Alliance side right now, there's no recipe in here, and you can't really buy it because it's a drop, so you are going to have to go to the Razorfen Downs, I think. Anyway, this is how you get the recipe, and now back to the showing you how to save some money if you want to compare the mats, for example, we're just going to take a look really quickly at the live root. And live root, the thing with live root is usually this is a little bit cheaper. Now that AQ40 is out, a lot of people are producing the normal or smaller nature protection potions. You can see here on the right hand side, which I will get into later as well. But I don't want the video to be too long. I'll talk about this. It's also a good gold saving tip. So usually the live root should be a lot cheaper. You can see with the historical value right now, it's at 160% from from the historical value. So usually this is a lot cheaper, but let's just assume that this is the price. So we're gonna go with one stack. The cost is 23 silver, 24 silver. Okay, so 24 silver for a live root, and then we got the brew sweet. Again, usually the live root is way cheaper. But we're gonna check on the brew sweet right here, and you can see you can get 3, 4, 3 silver, and this is has already risen to 200%. So usually this is a 50 copper, or even less maybe. Depends. Anyhow, you can get the brew suit for a silver, so we're looking at a total price for one potion of 25 silver. If you're looking at the price of a 5 stack here, you can get 5 of these sold for around 2 gold and 40 silvers. Again, 5 times 25, the investment of this was 1 gold 25. So what you can do here is, if you're really out of ideas how to make money, or you're a low level and you have the recipe, you can make these and just sell them. The profit that you're looking at is about a gold, gold 15, or maybe it varies a little bit, sometimes a gold 20. Something along these lines. So either a really easy gold maker for low levels, even if you're at a high level and you're very out of ideas and you just want very safe investment, right? Because live root and brew sweet, there's nothing you can really go, do wrong with it. In the worst case, you dumped 5 gold, and but you can make a little bit of gold. So this goes over mass. Of course, if the market is going to be flooded too much, these are gonna drop in price, like always. But what I was gonna say is you will have a Mighty Troll's Blood potion up. It's a hidden recipe, somewhat hidden recipe that you can only get from a guy in a cage in a dungeon, or from a drop, but the drop is never really on the auction house on the line side. And you have a cool consumable that you can spam, and to me that's what makes consumables good for me, is that they're actually spammable, because in the end it's a pot that will disappear if you die, and you will sometimes probably have to spend more. And again, you don't want to be broke all the time because you made the best consumable, but they just drain your gold, right? These are very cheap to make, and you still have 12 health per 5 up on yourself. And compared to the major Troll's Blood potion, okay, it has 20 health per 5 seconds, but it also costs, if we want to take a look at that, a lot more. So the Grom's Blood itself was around 84 silvers, and I think a Plague Bloom, from which you need 2 to make one major Troll's Blood potion, right here. As you can see, 1 Grom's Blood and 2 Plague Blooms is 10, so 75 silver. So 2 of those are 1 gold 50 already, plus 84 is something along 2 gold 35 or something for one of these. Okay, and compare that to the little bit cheaper version that you can get for 25 silver around. So that's just a little gold saving tip there for you. Hope you can make use of that. And that leads me into the next topic I wanted to talk about, and that is the Dagger Fury Warrior. And by the way, I'm going to give more gold saving tips or more potions that you can make that have similar effects in the next MTAs. But right now, I want to talk about the Dagger Fury. So generally speaking, the idea behind the Fury Warrior or melee and anything that uses an ability is you want a good max damage weapon, right? Slow weapon that has a big max damage so that your ability hits hard. Now, recently we've been seeing a lot more Dagger Fury Warriors around here, and I'm pretty sure this wasn't a thing on Lightbringer that much. But I could be wrong. If you've been a Dagger Fury all your life, just put it in the comments below and let me know. Okay, but I've seen this more on this server right now, and I just wanted to get into it, and I talked to a couple of Furies, and it could actually make sense for some people, and I'll get into using faster weapons versus slower weapons. So the idea behind the slower weapon, again, is especially that your abilities deal more damage. Now the thing is, with a Fury Warrior though, you are not really using Heroic Strike all that much. You know, at least you shouldn't be, unless you have enough rage to dump it. So the idea behind that is to have big hits due to a slow, fat main hand weapon. The thing with the Fury Warriors, you are using an ability called Bloodthirst, okay? And Bloodthirst's damage doesn't scale off your main hand weapon damage, it scales off your attack power and only the attack power. So what weapon you have with that really does not matter that much, at all, actually. All that matters is your attack power. That being said though, you know, your Whirlwind, however, does scale off your weapon damage, and I talked to a couple of Fury Warriors that had different opinions on this. The truth should be somewhere in the middle, I think, which I will get into in a second. But what we can see here is the Bloodthirst doesn't scale off your weapon damage, which would make fast weapons usable, you know, just fine as a Fury Warrior, which is true. But the thing is, Whirlwind is part of your rotation as a Fury Warrior, and you should weave that into your rotation, because it's still a really good damage boost for the rage invested, especially on, of course, melee packs, or when there's AoE packs, and when there are more than one mobs around, you want to use your Whirlwind, and that again scales off your weapon damage. So what do we take from this, right? So I've seen a lot of people running around with quick weapons, claiming that it doesn't really matter. And I think the truth is somewhere in the middle, and it really depends on a couple of things. Well, first of all, I think Fury Warrior should always go with the upgrade. Now, the positive thing about having quick weapons is that you will regenerate your rage quicker, and a quicker rage regeneration means you can spam out the attacks obviously quicker, and the cheaper attacks can go out quicker as well. That makes absolutely sense, and with a quicker weapon you regenerate more rage, hence why tanks usually go for quicker weapons, you know, as a prot warrior, for example. And with a slower weapon you get bigger chunks of rage, but they take longer to generate, obviously. So the perfect thing that I found out was to have a quick offhand weapon and a slower main hand weapon, right? So that you have good Whirlwind damage and a decent rage regeneration. Now the thing is though, the Fury Warriors that go for the daggers, right, they have, their goal is to just regenerate rage as quickly as possible. And now I'm getting into the horde side of things. For you people that play the filthy savage side, you know, you have two-hand Fury Warriors, and Illyrod actually told me that when these two-hand Fury Warriors get into the execution range or execute range from bosses, they switch to two daggers or two very quick weapons just to regenerate rage, because again, the execute doesn't scale off your weapon damage, it just takes into consideration how much rage you're pumping in. So the more rage you're spending, the bigger the execute hit's going to be. So of course in that short period of time you want to regenerate as much threat as rage as possible, to spam out as many executes for huge values as possible, while with a two-hand weapon, which is basically the slowest you can get, you would have a couple of hits in, but the rage generation would be so slow that your max weapon damage wouldn't matter. So the idea behind the Dagger Fury Warrior is definitely good and makes sense. Now then again, you're taking daggers usually from what? From Dagger Rogues. And if you're playing a Dagger Rogue, you don't really have options, right? So as a Fury Warrior, you have a lot of options, which leads me to the next point, which would be A, go by upgrade as a Fury Warrior. The quick weapon thing can make sense if the weapon is an upgrade. So if you have a very slow weapon and it's just not as good as the new main hand you would get DPS wise and, you know, stat wise, etc. Get the quicker one because it's an upgrade. That's A. B, don't take shit from others that, you know, especially like rogues, if they're usually set to a certain weapon type and will have to stick with it by the raid lead or the loot council or whatever. And so they don't really have the options to switch between weapons, but Fury Warriors really do have a lot of options. So don't take shit from others. Okay, and you know, the next one is C, go with your racial. So for example, if you are an upright orc or a human, right, you want to use either axes or maces or swords, depending on your race, because you get a bonus, get a hit rating or at least glancing blow bonus on it. So again, you don't want to be taking daggers from dagger. It's like the worst case scenario, taking a dagger from a dagger rogue being a human warrior, right? Because you profit so much more from maces and swords. Likewise for an orc, you don't want to take that if you could get a proper axe. That being said, though, probably the next rule would be, technically speaking, you want a slower main hand and a quick offhand, because also what the warriors have is flurry, and the flurry procs when you crit, and you will get a buff that increases the attack speed for the next 3 attacks by 30%. But you only have 3 of these stacks up, so if you have quick weapons, these stacks get consumed way quicker, obviously. So with a slower weapon, you have this attack speed up longer, and then can use the slower weapons with the bigger rage generation with an increased attack speed that stays up longer. So that's the counter argument against that. However, with quicker weapons, you attack faster anyway and regenerate more rage, and you have more chances to actually get crits in. So, you know, where the truth is, a lot of Fury Warriors debate this. As a general rule of thumb, so A, slow weapon, fast offhand, if you can get it, but B, go with the upgrade. If the slow weapon is shit and the quicker one is better, go with that one and regenerate rage quick. For Fury Warrior, it really doesn't matter that much. C or 3, right, however you want to see it, go with the racial and equip what's good for your race. And D, or the last one, right, the most important thing is that you are actually getting an upgrade out of it. So, as to give you an example, right, we were running MC the other day, and sometimes you have crap loot, right? But we had a very fresh Fury Warrior with us that was using, I believe it was Scarlet Chris in the main hand as a dagger, and he's a Night Elf Fury. And this one dropped here, the Askandar's Right Claw. And this one is a fist weapon, and it has a 1.5 speed, but is a main hand weapon. So you technically say, what the fuck is this shit? But the proc on it is increases your attack speed by 30% for 5 seconds. And he actually took this and replaced his main hand. He was obviously fresh. That's why I was saying he's not a human, so the fist weapon, it really doesn't make a big difference what weapon he's using as an Night Elf anyway, right? And so this weapon was an upgrade to the Scarlet Chris, so he took it for the main hand, and since he's a Fury Warrior, he's just gonna spam Bloodthirst. It doesn't really matter, and he has a really good rage regeneration at the moment. Now, if he would get something else that is just a better main hand, a slow, fat weapon, he would obviously go for that one. Another thing I wanted to point out before we end the MTA is, for example, if you look at Hakar, he has the Warblade of the Hakari. That is a 2-set weapon sword set, basically. And it's a rather quick main hand as well, right? So he, this Fury Warrior I was just talking about, actually got the offhand, which is, I think it drops on Banduk here, yeah, the offhand. So he has this weird fist weapon in the main hand right now, and this offhand right here, the 1.7 speed sword as well. Now the interesting thing though is the 2-set bonus is +6 swords, which currently, and that's just true for the March of 2019. Now, I don't know if this is going to be true for official classic servers, but as of right now, this is true, and this is a really good set for all non-humans, because the plastic swords essentially boosts you up to having a human racial using swords. And that means you effectively gain hit and glancing blow reduction. And being a non-human, and you could use these swords as a fresh fury warrior, for example, as a set, would boost you quite a bit, because you would essentially have to equip less hit, or you would actually gain more hit for your dual wielding penalty. So this is a really good set, and we're going to give it to the fresh Knight of Fury warrior when the main hand drops from her car, and he's going to be very happy about that, because he really will get a huge boost in that. You could also technically give these to humans, but the thing is, and I know usually these go to, the offhand especially goes to rogues, I believe. I'm not really sure, because rogues really need a slow main hand. But this set on a non, if you give this to a human warrior, this set, he would essentially end up at 311 weapon skill and swords, which would, I believe it's 311 or 312 or 313, where you gain another hit. But as you can see, the effect is not really as big as giving it to a non-human who would then be, you know, getting a huge boost in his hit rating and glancing blow damage reduction, which as a Fury is really big. So yeah, this is the small upgrade or update on the Fury Warrior front here that I again, like I haven't seen anyone go with a Dagger Fury seriously in the last months. So I've seen more and more, and maybe we have some Fury warriors that swear to use or swear on fast weapons to use, and maybe we have some Fury warriors that say, "Are you guys crazy? You need a slow weapon." Yeah, I think you should always go with the upgrade, especially as a warrior, as a Fury warrior. And in you know, I think technically speaking, a slow main hand is better, but it really depends on what you can get. Yeah, let me know in the comments below if you have more insight in that. I really want to know. But just please don't take, you know, the poor dagger rogues. Don't take their daggers unless they don't need it anymore. But you know, who cares about rogues? Am I not right? Let me know in the comments what you think, and I hope this gold saving tip with the potion helped you. And this was just a Fury Warrior discussion a little bit. I found it really interesting. And maybe this will help you regenerate a lot of rage, and you can push out a lot of bloodthirsts and executes. You know, the opinions are many varied, and let me know what you think. Also, we're recruiting PvPers at the moment for our PvP squad here on Northdale. We will move on to Classic altogether with the guild, of course. So if you're looking for something like that, let us know in-game or join our Discord server. The link is in the description below. For now, so this doesn't get too long, I would say have a very, very pleasant day, guys, and I'll see you next time.